Okay, we're Christmas Carol, Stave 1. Now we're going to look at the charity men that come and see Scrooge. We're going to talk a little bit about, because you should know a little bit, because Scrooge makes mention of the Poor Laws of 1832. These laws that kind of punished or made sure that the poor weren't idle, that they were forced to work. They were forced to run on treadmills all day. They were forced to live in workhouses and work off their debt, because there was seen in England this idea that the poor were poor for their own reason. And you see this in Scrooge. This is what Scrooge believes. And in contrast, we see these men of charity who feel that, particularly in a time of luxury, we should be more generous. But Dickens here is critiquing this line of argument that's coming out of Scrooge's mouth, which is to say, the poor be damned. They should work harder. That we should make them work. We should torture them. They're just lazy. Along with that, we get this idea of Malthus, the economist, who argued the poor are poor because they reproduce too much. They spend too much of their money, and their only joy, I guess, is reproduction, or their imagination is that kids can work for them. So the reason the poor are poor is because they have too many kids, and actually we have a surplus population. We have too many people for the food that we have, which is kind of an argument sometimes used about immigration even today. Just generally, this idea that we have too many people who are eating away at our wealth, as opposed to the idea, of course, which starts getting shoved in Scrooge's face over the course of this novel, which is no, the wealth is concentrated and greedily kept within certain people, but maybe we could think about redistribution, and the person you'd put up against Malthus might be the German economist Karl Marx, who died in London. So this is just, all of this is some context. And for those of you at Joe Richardson working with me, on page 3 of the textbook, you can find, on the booklet rather, you can find about the Poor Laws, about Malthus, about Karl Marx. That's all the kind of context that could help you when writing about this. So these charity men come, and we find out they don't know if it's Scrooge or Marley. And we find out that Marley's been dead 7 years, and he died around Christmas. Dead 7 years. We have no doubt his liberality is well represented by his surviving partner. His liberality, his generosity, his giving nature. They're trying to flatter him, to butter him up, but it's ironic, because it certainly was. This is irony, because they were both super not generous. They were exactly the same, as we will come to see. They were exactly the same, but Scrooge really does not like this word. He finds it ominous. Liberality. Liberality really bothers him. The idea of being free, of helping, of plurality. Scrooge is pure money guy, so he doesn't want to hear this. And I really like the way Dickens is quite good at capturing the voice. Look at how formal these guys are. At this festive season of the year, Mr. Scrooge, it is more than usually desirable. It is more than usually desirable. You see, he doesn't really say what he thinks. He's trying to be... we should make some slight provision for the poor and destitute, who suffer greatly at the present time. Many thousands are in want of... These are really the key phrases here for me. Apart from the language, which is quite bureaucratic and salesman-like and trying to butter... Common necessities, need, and common comforts. Maybe want. Some people think the poor only deserve what they need. They don't deserve comfort or luxury. That, again, is a rather cruel and mean way of thinking about the world, I'd say. And certainly Dickens thinks so, and he parodies this in Scrooge, that he doesn't care. Wait, aren't there prisons? Yes, plenty of prisons. And union workhouses, are they still in operation? So here we're starting to learn about what was provided for the poor. Remember, you may not realize this, but this is before the welfare state. The country doesn't give you housing or food. You can be a criminal and you can go to prison. You can go to a workhouse, which is what I mentioned earlier in terms of the poor laws, which is a place, if you owe money, you'd go work there. You'd go work off the debt. They are still, the workhouses are there. I wish I could say they were not. This is where... I wish I could say they were not. Little protest here. Little protest from the charity men. They can't be vocal about it. They're like, look, yeah, there are workhouses, but they shouldn't exist. We shouldn't have this kind of property. The treadmill and the poor law are in full vigor. The treadmill, as I like to tell my students, if someone from the Victorian era saw you at the gym running on a treadmill to lose weight or get your running on, they'd think you were insane. Because the treadmill was actually invented as a torture device for the poor because they were seen as lazy. And so they were tied to this kind of big wheel, and almost a hamster wheel, and they just have to run on it. I think Oscar Wilde had to do a treadmill for a while. I mean, it was a torture device for a really bizarre, arcane, brutal torture device for the poor to say, okay, look, you're lazy. That's why you're poor. We're going to teach you to keep moving your body so that you learn that either this punishment is so much worse, you'll be more active out looking for work, or to just shed this laziness out of you so that you learn that work is this liberating, amazing thing. This is insane. This is insane. Now, hold on. I'm going to make this, cut this passage up. Both are very busy, sir. Oh, I was afraid from what you said at first that something had occurred to stop them in their useful course. Useful? I'm very glad to hear it. He is sarcastic, caustic. He hates the poor. And he hates them because they don't earn money and they take money. And they're kind of shocked, okay? So they need to figure out how they're going to pivot this conversation, how they're going to change Scrooge's mind. I mean, I don't know if they're going to be successful. Well, they're not. Under the impression that they scarcely furnish Christian cheer of mind or body to the multitude, a few of us are endeavoring to raise a fund to buy the poor some meat and drink and means of warmth. We chose this time because it is a time of all others when want is keenly felt and abundance rejoices. So want, we're going to meet want as a child kind of ghost demon later in Stave 3, I believe. Want is, it's a time of real desperate need, and it's also a time where there's so much, as we see surrounding the ghost of Christmas presents. There's so much wealth in England. There is so much. And they also make appeal to Christianity. We want to give something. This is 5. We want to give something in the Christian sense of generosity. We want to give them both meat and drink and warmth. Okay, we want, because people are homeless, they're suffering, as we'll see very much in this book. So what can we put you down for? Nothing. Oh, initially they think, oh, you want to be anonymous? No, I don't want to be anonymous, says Scrooge. Okay. He says, I'd like to be left alone. Since you asked me what I wish, that's my answer. I don't make a Merry Christmas. I don't party at Christmas. Okay. And I can't afford to make idle, which is very important now, idle, lazy. Okay, indolent. That's why for Scrooge people are lazy, not because they're hurt or their circumstance. For Dickens, on the other hand, he talks about the accident of birth. It's just by chance, okay, that people may be suffering. What are we going to do? Torture them? Make them more? Well, this is a line of politics in England that has stayed with us since Dickens' time. Scrooge is being mocked here. The reader should feel repulsed, and we will come to realize, as will Scrooge, that this position is wrong. I help support the establishments like the poorhouse through my taxes, etc. Those who are badly off must go there. This is the safety. They have to. This is the solution. This is the only solution, not charity. I don't believe in charity. I believe in people taking care of themselves. And they get a little bit vocal here. Listen, many can't. And many would rather die. I mean, you should look into what these places were like. They were horrendous. Many people would rather be homeless than go to one of these places. Disgusting. If they'd rather die, they should die and decrease the surplus population. Here we get Malthus's idea. Okay, so if they're going to die, that's great. So there are too many of us, so let the poor die. Awesome. There'll be fewer poor. Solution. But he is a cartoon capitalist, but people actually have these opinions today. They're not far off. But you might know it. He says, and it's not my business, crucially. I don't know if you can. Oh, yeah, good. You can see. Ignorance is not an excuse. Ignorance is the other demon we'll meet. Nothing, I don't know, not knowing, or not caring, not involved. It's not me, man. It's them. Go to them. Leave me alone. And they know that they can't convince this guy at all. Because he's greedy and he's dark and he has a very particular vision of society. And it's one outside of Christianity, and it's one completely embedded in greed and accumulation of money and nothing to do with sharing or love or caring. And we see this right away when we see Scrooge. We see this through his relationship with Fred, and now we see this through the charity man.